if you have existing file system data on a file server that you want to expose through SharePoint, you can easily do so. Think of it as a reverse RDS. The blobs are already externalized, right? They're already in a file share when our end goal for SharePoint data is to put them in a file share. All we are doing is creating the reference in SharePoint for you. So if you look at this, just to take a note of it, I mean, it looks like any other endpoint, and they are. These are just any other type of endpoint that you would have had created already is going to be created as a librarian endpoint when you go to the librarian section. By the way, the only difference is that once you have cataloged your file share librarian data, new blobs that are created on those documents will actually be routed to a different endpoint. And we'll go over that there in a second here. So you can actually define which endpoint will take over for each of your new blobs that get created by SharePoint for documents that exist in this existing file share. So let's see here. I'm not going to go over that, but there is I'm just looking over some of my notes here for some of the use cases for Fileshare Librarian is actually creating my site data, but there's a whole document out there for if you want to expose file shares that exist by maybe your end users, each other on file share, you want to expose their data to their my site, you can actually go and use our Fileshare Librarian data to create the my site and create the particular library for that user. Not enough users of that to probably go over that here today. All right, so let's just go over configuring a librarian endpoint. Just tell us where that location is, whack, endpoint of the existing file share. Cleaning up names before importing to SharePoint means we just simply remove illegal characters. File share allows some characters that SharePoint does not. Promoting folder permissions is really powerful, actually. So it kind of just maps file share permissions to SharePoint. So your file share of owner, I believe, gets mapped to full control. Visitor will get read-only, and your member file share permissions will get reading and writing rights in SharePoint there. Looking through, again, just some more exclusion of different file types that you do not want to catalog with SharePoint. Tell us what you want to, what the location is in SharePoint that you want to show these documents through. Just tell us the library, and we will expose this file shared data to that particular library. There's a little checkbox here that always trips people up, simulate and log issues. If the first time you're running this, you actually do not want to physically catalog all that data. You just want to see if any issues will arise, any long folder names, long URLs, illegal characters. Just go ahead and simulate the actual cataloging itself before you actually do the physical migration of endpoint references to that library or to that particular file share. This is something new, actually, using document sets instead of folders for those folks who actually want to use in the new features, and I believe actually it's only available in 2013 document sets, right? Maybe 2010. Can't remember anymore when that was introduced, but if you would like to use document sets instead of folders, just define either on all folders or just maybe the parent folders. And of course, schedule this process to run. If you're doing it for a massive amount of data, please schedule it to run. It can be, again, a heavy job the first time it is actually run. And for any newly added content that was added directly to SharePoint, it will be routed to a different location. If you do add content directly to the file share, that is the only time you would need to recatalog. Now, we don't support, and no RBS product will support, the ability to edit files on the file share. only additions and only deletions are supported by remote blob storage. And that's not us, that's just the RDS API. You are not allowed to modify or edit content that exists on the file shared directly. You have to edit it through SharePoint. You guys bought Librarian, you guys bought StoragePoint, you are spending money on SharePoint, you might as well have your users get routed to SharePoint anyway and start to use SharePoint and not their darn file share.